How would you rate Michael Chandler's UFC run as a whole? Because from where I'm standing, it has been one of the strangest cases of the numbers not quite adding up that I've ever seen. And I don't mean that in terms of guys like Randy Couture or BJ Penn, who had pro records that didn't quite sum up their best moments. No, Michael Chandler has literally only beaten a washed Tony Ferguson and a very beatable Dan Hooker so far in his UFC career. But I have no doubt in my mind that he is an elite fighter. Ask Chandler himself and he will no doubt tell you that his priority during this run isn't so much to win as it is to make an impact. And you might say, well, doesn't winning instantly make your impact for you? Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. But for a 3-time Bellator champion, I feel like his career's experience has put him in a very unique spot. He's a guy who, at this stage, knows exactly how the game works, how it feels to win a title, to lose it, to reclaim it, and then to lose it again. How it feels when in the first round of a title fight, a calf kick from an unheralded underdog contender causes your leg to spasm and for the doctors to step in, leaving you sitting on the floor watching someone else holding your belt in a victory that you can't quite make sense of. Did you know that a prime Michael Chandler once went 0-3 across 3 fights, spending nearly 2 full years without a victory? Back when I was a reporter, I had a wonderful time interviewing Chandler where he told me about that period of time, how he would eventually name his autobiography 688 Days, after the span of days between career victory number 13 and the 14th victory that followed it. But he did eventually rebound, scoring back-to-back victories over Derek Campos and David Rickles to re-establish himself as the division's top contender. He then won his title back with a first-round knockout of the champion, Patricky Pitbull. And when it comes to Chandler's pre-UFC run, that's the thing that stands out to me. His attitude, his perseverance, not the multiple losses that he sustained, not the injury against Brent Primus, or getting TKO'd by Will Brooks, losing to Eddie Alvarez, getting starched in ugly fashion by Patricky's brother, Patricio Pitbull. The Michael Chandler story, at least to me, was set in stone long before he set foot in the UFC octagon. And like I said, I think Chandler's immense experience with all of the ups and downs of this game informed how he wanted to proceed with this next chapter. Because as far as I can tell, this man has entered into a very unofficial, but totally undeniable contract with the fans, and to some degree his fellow fighters, ever since he landed in the promotion. You know how in like 90% of cases when somebody fights Justin Gaethje, there's almost an expectation that you're going to see a war, that his opponent is going to rise to that challenge. Well, Chandler has kind of taken that blueprint and made it a hill to die on. He knows fully well, like every analyst in the game, that he would be better served fighting to a stricter game plan, maybe using his takedowns in a way that is more proactive. He could also, put his hands up every now and then to stop the punches instead of using his face to defend them. But it's clear that Chandler is here for a very specific purpose, and the way he is committing to that has made his career in the UFC a very unique one so far. So what is that purpose? Well, it's his purpose to entertain first and foremost, to, in any given moment, do the crazy thing that no one who has their sights on self-preservation would do. Whether it's putting your hands down and making Justin Gaethje look like a pretty sane and orthodox fighter by comparison, or trying to slam Charles Oliveira into the canvas while he has your back, in a motion that even Yoel Romero would have been proud of. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to leave us a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you don't miss an upload. We're also going to be pushing out exclusive monthly content through Patreon and the YouTube membership system, so if you do want to take part in that, be sure to sign up using the links in the description. There have been so many little nuggets of madness littered throughout Chandler's career, and don't get me wrong, it's not that he's not trying to win, because if you've watched even a minute of any of his best fights, you'll know he's always hunting for the finish. But there's an attitude to Michael Chandler this time, both in and outside of the cage, like he's fully engaged in this almost pro wrestling turn. He wants to be the fan favorite, and he is succeeding at turning those who initially may have seen him as corny or kind of lame on the mic. He's turning them by making himself and his commitment to this character totally undeniable. Through his 5 UFC fights, the record of 2 wins and 3 losses is just not the point. He's a rare case of a fighter whose promotional run contains losses that are actually more commendable than his wins. That debut KO of Dan Hooker was the perfect intro, and the front kick of Tony Ferguson is still difficult to watch, one of the most brutal head kick finishes in UFC history. But those other fights, the Oliveira War, that was a stunning 5 minutes and 19 seconds of action, and it seemed like it was going Chandler's way up until it wasn't. As electric a title fight as the lightweight division has ever seen. The Justin Gaethje fight, another bona fide classic of the sport. 3 rounds of total chaos that, again, saw Chandler kind of make Justin look like the normal guy by comparison. And then there was the Poirier matchup, which may have actually been my favorite fight of the 3. A fight that Chandler once again could have won, but just kind of didn't. But there is an alternate timeline somewhere where he's 5-0 in the UFC, but again, that's not even the important part. Looking down that record, it's a pretty pretty packed schedule, and though he hasn't always made the right choice, preferring to punch with his heart instead of his head, the man has taken on another level of fame and adoration in the process. Sure, the physical wear and tear and damage may eventually add up. That's not an unrealistic concern to have. But the reward for Chandler's total commitment to this role, well, that became clear just a few weeks ago. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what this has all led to. Coming into his first fight with Dan Hooker, I, at the very least, thought that Michael Chandler would be a fun addition to the UFC's 155-pound roster. But if you told me that Chandler would have lost 3 times in 5 fights, 2 by way of finish, and yet would be without question the most popular choice to welcome Conor McGregor back to the cage following a season of The Ultimate Fighter, I would have been skeptical. And sure, even saying it like that doesn't make it sound too outlandish, especially considering where McGregor is in his career right now. But I'm nothing short of shocked by how good Michael Chandler is at doing what has now become known as the Michael Chandler thing. The stuff in the cage, the theatrics, the endurance, sustaining a warlike output for 3 rounds, his chin, his recoverability, and then when he gets on the mic, his delivery, the character. The man has just been a real hit. Those who enjoy making memes within this sport have almost jokingly taken him on as the sport's motivational speaker uncle, where everybody, including Chandler, is in on the joke, making what could have been a total miss just part of the attraction. What I'm trying to say is that Michael Chandler is a lot of fun, and beyond finding himself with the right kind of resume and outspokenness to play opposite McGregor on this upcoming season of Tough, Chandler has earned every cent he will make from this big money fight. It's almost surprising how successful the dude has been in the UFC in spite of his losses. He will take to the cage against the Notorious after a season worth of television that will no doubt spring up many a viral moment, and he'll walk away from it all with some real change your life kind of money. And hell, if he beats Conor McGregor, that's also a notch on his belt. It's just a great situation on all fronts. And while I was in agreement to bring Conor back against Chandler rather than a Rafael dos Anjos or a Tony Ferguson, the more I think about it, the more I realize that this is the perfect way to continue this man's totally wild 5-fight stint in the UFC. It's a feel-good story. It's a veteran fighter who is already one of the greatest lightweights of all time, transforming himself against all odds as part of an experiment that just kind of worked from day one. And it has somehow led him to a payday and an opportunity that most fighters would kill for. I have a bit of a stake in this one because I genuinely think Michael Chandler is an awesome dude. He was a pleasure to interview, and I think his fighting career is a testament to the type of man he is. And I guess I just see it as a great outcome, because in this sport you don't often get them. Anyway, that'll just about do it for this video. So how do you see this matchup playing out, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with everything taken into account, how much of a success do you think Michael Chandler's UFC career has been so far, for himself, his standing in the sport, his legacy, and his prospects moving forward when he does eventually retire? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, let us know by leaving a like and hitting the subscribe button. And remember, exclusive monthly content will be available through Patreon and YouTube membership, the links to which can be found below. Thank you for watching.